It was just after midnight, and the streets were quiet except for the sound of a rattling old car crawling its way back from a long day's shift. Behind the wheel sat Daniel, a tired but determined single father whose eyes betrayed the weight of exhaustion he carried every day. His hands were rough from working multiple jobs, and his clothes were worn, but what broke him the most wasn't poverty, it was the fear of failing his little daughter, Emily, who slept soundly in the back seat with her arms wrapped around a ragged teddy bear. He lived his life on the edge, balancing unpaid bills, long hours, and the endless guilt of not being able to give Emily the world she deserved. But that night, as his headlights caught a figure stumbling in the road, Daniel had no idea that his small act of kindness would change not only someone else's destiny, but also his own. Blue heart, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of helping others, don't forget to like this video, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe to our channel Kindness Corner. Your support helps us spread more stories that remind the world of compassion. Blue heart. Daniel slammed the brakes, his heart leaping into his throat as he realized the figure wasn't just stumbling, it was collapsing. He jumped out of his car and rushed to the woman lying on the side of the road. Her dress was torn, her breathing shallow, and her face pale under the streetlight. She looked nothing like someone you would expect to see out here at this hour. Her clothes were expensive, her jewelry delicate yet costly, and her perfume lingered faintly even through the dust of the pavement. Daniel's instinct told him she wasn't just anyone. Without wasting a second, he scooped her into his arms and laid her across the back seat, right next to where Emily stirred awake. The little girl's eyes widened as she whispered, "Daddy, is she okay?" Daniel only pressed harder on the gas, praying the hospital wasn't too far. Inside the emergency ward, the nurses rushed to take the woman in. Daniel stood anxiously, clutching Emily's hand as she asked more questions. He had no answers, but something about the woman's fragile state shook him deeply. Hours passed, and finally a doctor came out to tell him that if she hadn't been brought in at that exact time, she might not have survived the night. The woman had suffered from sudden cardiac distress, her life hanging by a thread until Daniel intervened. He left quietly, not even waiting for thanks, because he had no time for glory. Bills, work, and Emily were waiting. Saving lives wasn't part of his plan, it was just the human thing to do. The days that followed went on like every other for Daniel. He worked long shifts, cleaned dishes at night, and fixed cars on weekends, all while trying to help Emily with her schoolwork and scrape together enough money for her medicine, because she had asthma that often kept him awake at night with worry. Every dollar he earned vanished too quickly, swallowed by rent and food, and the thought of Emily growing up in constant lack tore at his heart. Still, he never regretted that night. To him, it was just another story of sacrifice, one among thousands. He didn't know that for the woman he had saved, it was the beginning of a life-altering chapter. 2 weeks later, Daniel was at the small diner where he sometimes worked extra hours. His hands were soaked in dishwater when the bell above the door chimed. A hush fell over the diner as an elegant woman walked in, followed by 2 assistants. She was radiant, dressed in designer clothing, yet carried herself with the humility of someone searching for something meaningful. It took Daniel a moment to recognize her, the same woman he had pulled from the side of the road. She had fully recovered, her face glowing with gratitude. Her name was Victoria Sinclair, a renowned businesswoman, philanthropist, and one of the wealthiest women in the city. But in that moment, she wasn't there as a millionaire, she was there as a woman desperate to thank the man who had saved her life. When her eyes found Daniel, she froze. He looked tired, worn out, and yet stood with quiet strength. She approached him and softly said, "You don't know me, but I know you saved me." He shook his head modestly, insisting anyone would have done the same. But Victoria saw what others overlooked, the calloused hands, the weary eyes, the little girl peeking from a corner of the diner, waiting for her father to finish. She realized this man didn't just save her life, he risked the only stability he had to help a stranger. From that day forward, Victoria made it her mission to change Daniel and Emily's life. At first, Daniel resisted. He was a man of pride, unwilling to accept charity. But Victoria was gentle, offering not handouts but opportunities. She helped him secure a stable job at one of her companies, where his work ethic quickly shone. She supported Emily's education, ensuring she had access to books, tutors, and the medical care she needed. For the first time, Daniel could breathe without the crushing weight of financial despair. His nights were still long, but they were filled with hope rather than hopelessness. What touched Victoria most wasn't the accident or even Daniel's bravery, it was his love for his daughter. She watched as he walked Emily to school, always kneeling down to kiss her forehead and whisper encouragement. She saw how he sacrificed his comfort just to ensure Emily had shoes without holes, or a warm meal at the end of the day. That kind of love, she realized, was richer than any fortune. And slowly, Daniel and Emily became more than just the family who saved her, they became her family too. But life wasn't a fairy tale. Even as things improved, Daniel struggled with the fear that it could all vanish in an instant. Years of hardship had taught him not to trust happiness easily. Yet Victoria never left. She stood beside them, investing not just money but heart. She took Emily on trips, sat with her in the hospital during difficult nights, and reminded Daniel that sometimes it's okay to lean on others. For a man who had carried everything alone, that was the hardest lesson of all. The story of a poor single dad who once drove a stranger to the hospital became something much greater. It was a reminder that a single act of kindness can ripple into a lifetime of blessings. Daniel saved Victoria's life, but in return, she saved his. She gave Emily a future filled with dreams instead of limitations, and she gave Daniel the dignity of being recognized, respected, and truly supported. Sparkles, if this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your engagement helps us continue to bring real, inspiring stories of compassion to the world. And most importantly, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how kindness has changed your life or the life of someone you know. Sparkles. Because sometimes, it only takes one choice, one moment, one act of love, to change everything forever.